about this thing called AI? Because what we're going to do today is something unique. I'm going to show you what your world is going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years. And I can tell you right now, you're going to want to pay attention. Because if you don't know anything about AI, understand one simple concept, which is if anything can be repeatable in what you do, it can be automated through AI. If it can be repeatable, it can be automated through AI. And you know what I mean. So think about everything you do as an attorney every day and think about what can be repeatable, because that's what's coming your way, and it's coming like a tidal wave. So what are we seeing right now in AI that you should be paying attention to? The first thing is, I don't know if anybody saw this last week, Spotify came out. They were the first public company that said, hey, you know what? We're not hiring people anymore. We're only hiring people if AI can't do the job first. Every company has been doing this in Wall Street right now. Spotify, I'll give them credit. At least they came out and said what they're doing, because this is what everybody's doing right now. And guess what the big law firms are doing right now? The exact same thing. The big law firms are not hiring right now. They are automating. They are finding new ways to do things better and more efficiently without adding headcount. And what does this mean for the legal profession? I want you to pay attention to this, because the labor market is telling you right now. What are the most valuable attorneys right now in the market? Attorneys that have skills around AI. Because these are the people that are the most marketable and the people that people are looking for right now. So the question I get all the time when I'm talking to attorneys is, hey, is AI going to replace attorneys? And the simple answer is no. But attorneys that use AI will be replacing the attorneys that don't. And that's what you need to remember, and that's what's coming your way like a tidal wave right now. So I want you to look forward for about 3 to 5 years right now, because this is what I'm going to show you is ahead of you, and it's coming very fast. Now, first off, this is a little literal illustration of what we're talking about conceptually here. Elon Musk would love this, because according to Elon Musk, we're all going to have robots running around our houses in the next year or two out of a Tesla. But what this does illustrate is the following, which is everything that is happening right now is coming so fast, and the efficiencies are so incredible. It's going to change everything you're doing in the legal profession. So for example, I do a podcast every week, and I talk to a lot of people about how do you do claims processing? How are you doing demand letters and pleadings and e-discovery? They're doing it in a fraction of the amount of time with new technology with AI that nobody can keep up with. It's happening at lightning speed like this. And basically what they're doing is they're turning law practices into practices where the majority of the things that you do can now be fully automated, where you don't have to have headcount to do that. And many people are actually working themselves down to single attorney law practices again, but still increasing their billing and still increasing their rates, because they're getting more efficient with what they're doing. So what I want you to pay attention to, close attention to, is a slide I use when I talk about AI. And basically what this is the disruption of law. The biggest, Bob talked about this when he started out, the biggest disruption of your lifetime is coming, and is literally coming within months and years ahead. And what I wanted to illustrate for you real quick is what the disruption looks like from the law firm side and what it looks like from the consumer side. The first thing is almost 80% of everything you do as an attorney can be repeated. And if it can be repeated, it can be what? Automated through AI, right? You're going to see huge changes coming with everything that you do every day. Bob also talked about earlier, there's a growth right now of external capital coming into what was historically a closed capital system. You have ABSs that are funneling this money in to create efficiencies in legal like we've never seen before. There are major changes coming to SEO and marketing. It is a glacial change, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. Virtual work is becoming the norm. We're seeing hyper niche practice areas. We're seeing do-it-yourself type applications. And the biggest thing that I talk about a lot is 14% of all attorneys in the United States right now are 65 or older. Guess what they're doing? They're retiring. Was that you, Dwayne? Were you raising your hand?
I'm 65 and older.
Well, don't retire soon. But the point is, the majority of these attorneys that are 65 and older own law firms. And guess what they're doing? They're retiring. And most of them aren't located in the big cities. They're located all over the United States and in Arizona. And what it's doing is it's creating a phenomenon called legal deserts. Basically what that means is there are areas that you can go 50 to 100 miles and not have any attorneys near you anywhere. There's no access to justice. So this is also taking place. And then the final thing is your competition is vastly increasing. KPMG just opened a law firm here in Arizona. Guess what? That's coming. If you do business law, you're going to see that in spades. There's a whole bunch of AI automation coming around. Everybody here that lives here in Phoenix, what do you see whipping around the streets all day, right? It's a fleet of 1,200 Waymos. Does anybody know what the accident rates are on Waymos compared to standard cars? 1/7.
How about the sexual assault rate?
That too. That too. But all these major changes are coming, and they're coming because of AI. Now, what I also want to talk about is on the consumer side, and this can be a little uneasy to hear, because what I'm going to first tell you is that as a result of everything coming, there's going to be a reduced need and demand for lawyers. Nobody wants to hear that, but why is that happening? The first thing is there's a lot of do-it-yourself legal services that are popping up everywhere. Whether we agree with them or not, consumers are using them. The second thing is AI chatbots, which I'm going to show you in a moment how this works, are taking over the traditional legal consultation space. All the intake, all the consultations you're doing now can be fully automated and done professionally. And I'm actually going to show you how this works in a moment. The second part of this is there's a growth in alternative payment systems. The whole pay-by-hour model is going away. Everybody wants flat fees, they want transparency and growth. What we saw in Clio a moment ago, right? What is the one thing that people are wanting to find out? What does this cost? But there's no transparency if they don't know what the fees are of what they're walking into. So this is all happening at lightning speed. If you own a website, guess what's going to happen to your website? Your traffic is going to go down. Why? Because direct AI consumer interactions are replacing traffic coming into your website. The search engines are dying, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Open marketplace shopping. This is something else nobody wants to admit that's coming. But the reality is, if you got a good case, there's going to be open marketplaces where you can actually have attorneys bid on that case and bid amongst themselves to buy it. It hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen very soon. And then the final thing is big brand dominance. We were talking about this earlier with Bob, right? You see Sweet James that came into Phoenix a number of years ago, and Morgan, everybody else, what they're doing is they're squeezing out the smaller brands. They have a playbook. They know how to run it in the markets, and it's becoming harder and harder for you to differentiate as a brand to go against them. I know this is not easy to look at, and it's not easy to see and admit that's happening, but this is coming. And this is what you need to remember when we're talking about what you need to do to compete. Now, let me ask you a quick question. How many people here do advertising on Google? Anybody do advertising on Google? Come on. Nobody's paying attention. So, there was a study that came out over a year ago from Gartner that said that Google was going to lose 1/4 of all of their traffic. We've never seen this before, right? Well, we have data scientists. This study came out over a year ago. We have data scientists that we're talking to that are actually saying this number's low. This is actually happening much quicker than we ever expected. And what does this mean? What does this mean? There are only 3 things that people do when they search on Google. They do informational, navigational, and transactional searches. That's the only 3 reasons why people go to Google. 70% of all Google's traffic is informational search. Does anybody here use a chatbot now, ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever, right? Okay, now I'm seeing hands go up, right? What are you finding about the information on those chatbots compared to Google?
Amazing.
They're better, right? You don't have to go and click to go to another place to find information to search. It's all provided for you in one place. And this is what consumer behavior is changing towards. This breaks Google's entire model. Google has been making hundreds of billions of dollars off of attorneys because they charge you to have people click through to get to your website from their search engine, when the reality is all this is going away. And it's going away very rapidly. So if you're dependent on Google search for your cases or your clients that come in, you're going to see a major, major change, and it's already starting to happen. So the final thing I wanted to talk about is how do you compete against the big brands? Bob talked about this a little bit, Eric talked about it, etc. The bottom line is they're coming. They're coming into every one of these major markets. We're seeing this all the time. The only way and the most effective way that you can compete that I've found with law firms, no matter what size your practice is based upon conversion. It's a very simple concept. There are only 3 ways as an attorney, 3 types of conversions you need to focus in on: marketing conversion, new client conversion, and case conversion. New client conversion is the easiest way for you to grow your practice. And why do I say that? We've been analyzing call center data for years. We actually run one, right? What we found is that the average conversion rate for somebody who calls in to become a case into a typical law firm is 7%. Law firms that do less than that are typically down to 3%, all the way up to 27%. That's how big of a swing that we see with the law firms that we work with. So one of the things that when a law firm comes to us and says, hey, you know what, I want to double the growth of our law firm next year, if we find that their conversion rate's low, guess what's the first area we're doing? We're saying if you've got a 5% conversion rate, We can double your revenues tomorrow simply by moving your 5% to a 10% conversion rate. The math is very simple. The problem is attorneys don't focus, they don't think this way. This is how you need to start thinking about how you can compete and win, because the reality is consumers don't want to shop around. They want to hire the first attorney that they contact, and the bottom line is attorneys make it hard to contact you because people are calling around and they're getting dead phones. 1/3 of all calls that go into law firms go unanswered. I know the Clio numbers were out there earlier, which was just less than about 50%. The bottom line is you're making it really hard for consumers to find you, and when you close that gap is when you compete and ultimately win for these cases. So now I'm going to close on something I want to show you guys. And I was talking about what does the future of AI look like? Well, we've got a new automation tool that we just released to law leaders, and it's called LegalNavigator. You guys are some of the first to actually see this technology. We've been testing this for about a month and a half. We have some of our members already using this. This changes the entire game for client conversion for law firms. The reason why is you will never miss a call again, and you will never have to do a initial consultation again. LegalNavigator does not show up to work late. It does not take lunch breaks. It does not leave at 6 o'clock. It does not take vacations. It does not call in sick. It always takes calls. And it has intelligible conversations. We have programmed LegalNavigator to know the laws in every state and every practice area. So when people call into LegalNavigator, they're actually asking and finding out legal information that they need to questions that they have. Everything from what does it cost to hire an attorney, what do I need to do next, etc. We're doing this without providing legal advice, but we are providing legal information. And then the final thing about LegalNavigator is we actually program this now to qualify cases for each individual law firm that we work with. So if you're a personal injury firm and you ask questions typically during your initial consultations about statute of limitations or who is at fault in the case or how much insurance is there, we program that all into LegalNavigator. So all of these questions are filtered through, and the case only gets to you when it is qualified through LegalNavigator. And at that point, we warm transfer it into the law firm. And then you receive a transcript, an AI summary, as well as a text notification of everything coming your way. And better yet, we send a text back to the client that's contacting you with information about your law firm, how to give you a positive review, as well as how to do signed retainers, anything you want. The bottom line is we close this entire loop in the process of intake with clients. And that's why we're excited to show you this today, because this is coming out in the market. You're probably going to be seeing a lot about this in social media tomorrow, because we're one of the first to actually come out with something that's dedicated just to the legal profession to address this exact issue of how you can compete and win. And we're going to have a little fun with this right now. I'm actually going to call our agent, and I'm going to put it over the speaker, and hopefully it's going to work over the doctors that are over there. How fitting that they would interrupt at this point. But what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to call our agent as if they were your law firm, because it is our law firm. And I want you to hear how your clients are now going to be interacting with this agent.